edition of the 310 to Left podcast. Tom Caron with you this week, flying solo. Alex Spear, as always, is on assignment. A little bit of a special edition this week. The end of the week will feature the ESPY Awards, when ESPN honors some of the great athletes and great stories around Major League Baseball and all of sports. Fenway Sports Group and the Red Sox will be well represented, as they will receive the Sports Philanthropist of the Year award from this year's ESPYs. Tom Warner, John Henry, credited with driving $120 million in investment in both New England and Lee County, Florida. So they will be honored for the work they have done through the Red Sox Foundation and their philanthropy. But the reason we say it's a special edition this week is because of our guest. It's Liam Hendriks. Hasn't thrown a pitch yet for the Red Sox, but signed with the Red Sox at spring training, working his way back from Tommy John surgery, and now he's throwing less than a year after Tommy John surgery. He is hoping to be back within a year of the surgery. That's probably not going to happen. That would be early August, but he's pushing. And Alex Cora and the training staff are trying to keep him in line to stay healthy and not have any setbacks. But whatever he does, it won't be his most impressive comeback. His most impressive comeback was when he returned to the mound with the Chicago White Sox last year after being diagnosed and battling through stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. On December 8th of 2022, he told the world about his battle via Instagram, and within a year was back on the mound in a major league game. It was an incredible moment. And since he went through that battle, he has dedicated much of his time and his life to sharing his story and sharing his strength with other cancer patients, so many of whom feel like they are all alone in the battle. So we talk about that, about winning the Jimmy V Award, maybe the most prestigious award given out at the ESPYs. That's what Liam Hendriks was honored with last year, and that's just one of many things we will talk about. So without further ado, the best pitcher on the Red Sox from Australia, we welcome in Liam Hendriks, the guest, on this edition of the 310 to Left podcast. First of all, take us into how you end up in Boston. Like, how to come together? Was it a relatively easy decision? I know at the time you said, like, it's the Red Sox. That's pretty cool. But how did they end up being the place for you to land?
Yeah, so we, as soon as free agency hit, as soon as the White Sox declined my option and we went through that period, it was, I think, 10 days after the World Series. We had a bunch of teams reach out. The Red Sox were one of them. Reached out early and often, and then just kept tabs on and seeing how everything was going. But it really didn't kind of start to accelerate until we put the deadline on it ourselves. So it was probably late January. I hadn't had any really traction. It was just teams calling, just checking in. Well, we're not really right there yet. And then my wife and I sat down with my agent. We're like, look, I don't want to be in limbo all off season or all spring or whatever it needs to be. So let's set a date. The date was the last day of any team to report, pitchers catchers report, which is February 15th. If we don't have a deal done by that day, we're rehabbing ourselves and we're doing a showcase in July, August, whenever that needs to be, and going about it that way. And as soon as we set the deadline, a few teams reached out, Red Sox being one of them, and just kind of progressed to there. But look, I've always loved coming to Boston. I've always pitched well at Fenway, and they've never had an Aussie, which was very high on my bucket list. And then we did a Zoom call in the off season, and look, they said all the right things. Like Brandon, the head trainer, was. We don't envision a world where Liam Hendriks does not pitch for the 2024 Red Sox if everything goes smoothly. Like, perfect. That's all I need to hear. That's all I want. All I want is an opportunity to pitch this year. And that was one thing they said. And then also the fact of being able to rehab with Boston, travel with the team, was something that was really appealing to me as well.
You set August 2nd as a deadline, if you will. That's your goal.
That's my 12-month mark.
That's your 12-month mark. Did you say that to the Red Sox, and what was their reaction?
Yeah. That was, I'm like, look, my goal is to get in August. That's the 12-month mark. I'm not getting, I'm 35. I'm not getting any younger. I've gone through enough things in the last couple of years that, look, anybody who knows my personality knows I'm going to push it. I'm going to push the boundaries. I'm going to try and get there every day and do as much as I can to make sure that I can come back as soon as possible. Like, I was meant to do 6 rounds of chemo. I only did 4 rounds. So, I mean, the similar concept. Like, I've recovered well generally, so I want to make sure that I set myself a target goal, and there's an attainable target goal where I can go out and put my best foot forward every single day, making sure that that is the target day for me to get back.
No one has ever won back-to-back comeback players of the year. I mean, by definition, that's almost about. You've already come back. You're not supposed to come back again a year later.
Look, look, 5 innings one year. Maybe I can triple that inning total and we get to 15 this year. I don't know. But no, that is what it is. Like I couldn't care less about the accolade. I just want to pitch. Like my happy place is on a mound. My happy place is in the clubhouse. And look, it hasn't been the easiest last couple of years. So I'm just trying to be happy.
Let's talk about last year. You say you don't care about the accolades, but when you look back on the accolades and the reaction and the ovations and the support, was there a time this offseason, well, I guess it started earlier, right, because of the elbow, but was there a time where you sort of had that moment to put it in perspective? Because when you're grinding, right? When you're battling through it, you're battling through it. Was when you were done pitching for the year, and maybe because you're getting cut, you don't, because you're going right to the next thing, right? But I mean, when did
cut us in this or cut us in taking up the tape?
One then the other. But was there a point where you got to, driving the car at one, you know what I mean? Was there ever that sort of moment where it all hit you?
Not really. I mean, there was some really cool experiences throughout it all. Whether it was like, the ESPYs was one of the coolest experiences I've ever been around, because you don't see too many baseballs get a chance to go to these major sporting awards, because we have opposite seasons to a lot of the major teams or the major organizations. So getting a chance to go to that, like I was sitting right behind the Vegas Golden Knights, and I'm a huge hockey guy. So being able to sit behind those guys is fantastic. Get to talk to Aiden Hill a little bit was awesome, and sitting right next to a comedian on one side, I had Lil Wayne on the other side, like just the athletes, and then standing up and talking and seeing literally the best ever in their sport. Like Michaela Schifrin sitting right directly in front of me. We had Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes right next to them, and the bit that really sank in for me with that situation was I started talking about the mindset of the game, the mentality of the game, because I've never been the most talented person in any bullpen I've ever been a part of. I've never had the best stuff. I've never had the best repertoire or anything like that. I mean, I've played with some extremely talented people. But I think the biggest thing that has separated me as far as where that is, I've gone through the lowest of lows with being DFA'd 5 times. I've come back from that. I've been a month away from retiring from the game. I've been potentially one decision by an organization about going to Korea back in 2014. Like there was a lot of times where there was a lot of sliding door moments that got me to where I am. And that has just built the mental side of the game in my head, that it doesn't matter what is going on. Like I know I can beat whoever I'm going against, regardless of who they are, what they can do on the field and anything else. And saying along those lines and seeing all these like literally world-class athletes nodding along and going along with it, I mean, it just reiterated the the mindset that I've really tried to cultivate.
You get a diagnosis of cancer, right? Stops you in your tracks, and you went through the test, right? It was the first test. The blood was good. You're being told you don't have cancer. Then you find out you do. Yeah.
So July, I had some lumps on my neck. So one down here, a couple on the side, and then you can see the one. There's a scar under here. So there's that little scar under there, right on the beard line, and. Lumps along there, didn't think anything of it, thought it was just stress. I was in a lot of pain in 22, like just body pain, whether it be knee, hip, back, elbow, shoulder.
It'd be easier to list the places that haven't been fixed. Yeah,
pretty much. And so got some blood work done. We're like, let's just get some blood work done just to make sure. Blood work came back clean. I have to get regular blood work for another thing anyway. So blood work came back clean. So I'm like, perfect. It's just probably stress. I'm not too worried about it. They're like, oh, we can give you an antibiotic. No, I don't really want to take that during the season. I don't like the way they make me feel. They tend to, especially with the extremities and the fingers and trying to throw a ball as hard as you can and place it on a dime. It's hard to do when you don't feel your fingers well. So gets into November. We're about to go on vacation. I'm like, man, these lumps are still here. Let me call the doc, get that antibiotic script. Go in, and he goes, yeah, no, if they're still there now and it hasn't changed, like let's get some tests done. Let's make sure there's nothing more nefarious. And so then I start Googling everything, and I'm putting hung compresses here, and I'm doing everything as far as I can. And it just kept going, and then you look at, I saw one thing, I remember seeing it, it was, if you have lumps and they're painful and they move, that's an infection. If they're not painful and solid, that's not good. That's more cancerous. And so I saw that, I'm like, well, and then got some more tests done, had a needle biopsy that they confirmed that it could be this. It's leaning towards this. It's not normal, but it's also not abnormal for the bit they got. So like, yeah, needle biopsy is the first indicator, but they're not definitive. So let's go in and cut it out. Cut it out, turned out it was cancer. Got lined up with the oncologist at Mayo Clinic and Dr. Alison Rosenthal and kind of progressed from there. But it was always one thing where she was like, oh, you got no symptoms, so I'm assuming it's like a stage 2. I don't feel any lumps anywhere else. You should be fine. But like, let's go get a CAT scan. So CAT scan came back, and it was just littered on it. Looked like I was wearing a black pearl necklace underneath. And then, like, okay, with that going, let's do a PET scan just to make sure where it is and how far it is. She get back, and she goes, well, you need to come back in. I'm like, she goes, it's not stage 2. I'm like, oh, perfect. She goes, stage 4. Well, it was one of those situations where at every point we're like, okay, it's been bad news after bad news after bad news. At some point, we'll have a little bit of good news. Not the good news came when it was like it's stage 4. And it was stage 4, but I'm not worried, is what our doctor said. And saying that, it was like, yeah, you just got told you had stage 4 cancer, but the oncologist at the same time said, I'm not worried. That was such a relief to both of us, my wife and I. And yeah, it wasn't the easiest decision, or it wasn't the easiest kind of situation, but the decision was taken out of my hands, which in that situation, I don't want a decision. To like, oh, should I get treatment, should I not get treatment? Because we were umming and ahhing if it was stage 2, whether we just go immunotherapy, whether we go the full gambit, whether we do anything. And as soon as it came back stage 4, I was like, no, there's no option. This is what you're doing.
How quickly, so what's the timeline? How quickly did you start treatment?
So after the confirmation, so I got confirmed just before Christmas, I believe.
And so you got to keep it quiet.
Yeah, so I mean,
right? You can't let the media find out.
My parents were in town, we didn't tell them. My younger sister and brother-in-law were in town, didn't tell them. And we were waiting, so every sports athlete, they kind of get second opinions on everything. Like if I stub my toe, I'm sending it to like 3 different doctors just to make sure. Well, we did the same thing. So I reached out to the team doctor who I told, you're not allowed to tell the team. Don't tell the team until we get this all figured out. And I want to be the person who tells them. So I don't want it leaking out and doing that way. So Doc called an oncologist known as the lymphoma legend in Chicago and reached out to him. He overlooked all the data, all the tests and everything like that, and pretty much gave us the exact same diagnosis as Dr. Rosenthal. And at that point, I think that was on like the Thursday. We had chemo starting on the Monday. We told people on the Saturday, and I think we told the public on the Sunday. I think, right around there. But yeah, told my parents, told some close friends, and then, did that on the social media stuff. But obviously my agent and stuff knew as well because we were going through that. But it was pretty quick once we actually got that secondary diagnosis, the secondary confirmation. And
you, like you said, you're supposed to go 6 rounds. You went 4 rounds.
Yeah.
Like you kind of attacked this like you attacked the 9th inning.
Yeah, so my chemo round, it was a very mild chemo. I didn't lose my hair. I had minimal side effects. I mean, I got sick the first round of the immunotherapy. So I was on RBs, Rituxan and Bendeka, which is the type of chemo I was on. Or Bendeka was the chemo, rituximab was the immunotherapy. I think it could be vice versa. But was doing that. I got sick on the immuno straight away. And the immunotherapy took 8.5 hours. The chemotherapy took 7 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was in a hospital for about 10, 11 hours. The first
Sitting
day.
in a chair,
lying in a bed.
Lying in a bed.
And I was awake the first time.
With the drip just going and you're just taking it.
Straight through the left arm. But I had planned all this out. I had like 20 hours of TV shows on an iPad. I had 4 books. I had headphones charged. Everything was ready. And then I slept for most of it. Because after I got sick, so what they do is they start you on a really low dosage of the immuno. So I can't remember what it was. I think it was like 15. And as soon as they kicked me up to 25 or 20 or whatever it was, I got sick immediately, which is a normal response. But it sucked. And so then once I needed some meds to get me kind of back to where I needed to be, and then did that, and I slept the most of the time the rest. And then that was round 1 of the first day. And then the second day is just a chemo and a shot, like a steroid shot in your arm. And then 28 days later, I do it all again. And then after the second round, because I handled the immunotherapy good, I got the rapid infusion on round 3 and 4. And after round 3, we took some scans. I can't remember if it was round 3 or round 4. I think it was round 3. After round 3, we took some more, like another PET scan. Showed up great, showed up clear. So they're like, yep, you've got to do the 4th one just as a kind of preventative measure. But I don't see the need to do rounds 5 and 6. And all you need to do is wait that was, round 4 was early April, so I think our home opener with Chicago last year was the home opener. And then you have to wait till the 18th of April, and then I got my secondary bone marrow biopsy. And that was just to prove beyond a doubt that it was eradicated for now. And I was throwing a bullpen on the 20th.
That return in May, the T-shirts are everywhere. He
Yeah,
steps out of the box. You get to do a 360 and look around the ballpark. Like
the
before
White Sox
you
did a
threw
really good
that
job.
pitch,
Thais
what
did
was
a
it like?
fantastic job.
What was that whole lead up to the first pitch?
It was a lot. Like obviously, nothing in my head changed with what I was doing. Like it was just like it's another thing. Like yeah, we'd have people like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear. I'm like, it is what it is. There's nothing I can do to change it. So why bother with sitting there feeling sorry for myself? I never had really a why me moment. I had more of a why not me moment. You know, like out of all the people I know, and I don't know if you have this impression yet of me or not, but I'm a relatively happy-go-lucky person. Out of all the people I know, I'm probably the best equipped to deal with something like this. Because you know what? There's nothing I can do to change it. All I'm going to do is go and do what I need to do and then have a smile on my face and mess around with as many people as I can. And that's about it. But yeah, it was definitely an emotional experience coming back May 29th. It got delayed a little bit because my elbow wasn't quite recovering in my rehab assignment, but that was the precursor for what was already happened. That had already happened. My ligament was already torn. That was I was already gone, but I refused to not get back. I mean,
you had said you were going to pitch last year.
I was going to pitch last year no matter what. It didn't matter if it was right-handed or left-handed. I would have been back on a mound at some point in a big league game, and there was no way I was going to be able to stop it. I mean, I would just white knuckle and grit my teeth and go for it, even if it was only the one outing. I was hoping it was just a little bit of scar tissue that was in there that would just snap off and I'd be back to normal. Fortunately, it wasn't. Having Matt step out and give me that time to just soak it all in. I mean, having the Team Liam signs behind the bullpen from Bianca and all the guys at the Wash Foundation was a big deal. And getting a chance to, I was able to, I did some stuff with Bianca through the foundation. Nate had a sign that was on the side that was like, I'm battling too. I just got diagnosed. I've caught up with him now. We're going to catch up with him when we go back to Chicago. But it's like seeing all those things and then seeing how many people just in the game have been kind of affected by it. So I got Chad Bettis. I had Chad Bettis reach out. I had Jameson Taillon reach out. I had Trey Mancini reach out. Guys that have been through this. I mean, having guys like that, and it made a difference in my recovery because Jameson Taillon had said something, and I can't remember verbatim, but the gist of it was nobody can tell you what you can and cannot do. Everybody's different. It's your walk. It's your journey. Do what you need to do. So I think it was that. I got that text, and that was after round one. I'd just been playing catch. So I think the next day or 2 days later, or whenever I went to the field again, I'm like, screw it, I'm throwing a bullpen. And just threw bullpens in the rest of the time. So anyone who says that I came back too early and this is why I got hurt, no. I mean, anything last year, me coming back, was going to be too early. Just from a recovery standpoint, all this sort of stuff. But as far as health-wise, no, it wasn't too early. I threw more bullpens than anybody else last year.
Did you really?
I was throwing,
in that time?
I was throwing 2 bullpens every day, every week. And like max effort pens, like everything. I threw absolutely everything. But
you had said that your happy place, whatever you want to call it, baseball,
happy
like
place
that was your...
I may not look happy at all times when I'm doing it, but it's my happy place.
And you need that. I don't think people realize when you're going through something like that, you have to be as close to normal as you can be.
You need the monotony. You need to be as normal as you can. Like there was a bunch of people that they're getting treatments while I was at the hospital, and they'd come in and get chemo, they'd have that day off, and then the next day they'd be at work because that's what they need to do. They need to be able to like force themselves to wake up. What I noticed is, so I had treatment on Mondays and Tuesdays, and Wednesday and Thursday I was wiped out. Like I was wiped out, especially for the first couple of rounds. First and third round actually I was more wiped out than anything else because it's the first infusion and then the first rapid infusion. By Friday I was at the field because I knew that if I didn't force myself to get there on Friday, it would be at the earliest the next Monday, and then I know myself. I know if I get given a chance, I'm going to psych myself out. I'm going to convince myself that I don't need to do it. I've done all that I can. Like I've done enough in this game that I deserve kind of that. And no, there's no deserving anything in this game. You have to earn everything you get. And so for me, it was forcing myself to go out, get back into the field, and that forces me to that's why I never ask for a day off in the pen. If I ask for a day off, I'm going to take advantage of that. Like, oh, I'm not feeling great, I need a day off. Like if I never ask for a day off, I never have an excuse of why I'm not pitching that day.
Love that. Your wife, she was the rock through it all, obviously. Yeah. And I've talked to so many people over the years. We do the telethon every year. So I've talked to a lot of cancer survivors. And they always tell you that when the dust settles as much as it can, you find out later how tough it was on them.
Oh, without a doubt. Like I still remember there was one night where I woke up and she was just sobbing in bed. And she was annoyed that I saw that, because she goes, every time I went to the closet, I was crying. Every time I walked away, I was emotional. But I never wanted to let you see that, because I knew how much that would affect you. And so it's the little things like that, like, she never let me see how much she was struggling. Obviously, I knew a little bit because we know each other pretty well, but yeah, she never let me openly see it, which I'll be forever grateful for, because it would have broken me more than anything. Like, I was a pretty resilient guy as far as my own stuff, because you know what? This is me. I know how to do what I need to do. It's like going into a cold tub. It's gonna suck, but if you just get it over with, you feel great afterwards. Similar concept to chemo, I guess. It's gonna suck, but you're gonna feel better afterwards. So that was, yeah, it was. I can do that, but knowing the emotional toll it took on your loved ones, that's gonna be that would have been really hard to deal with, and she never let me see it.
How much has that shaped what you guys are doing now? Like understanding, and you and I had a conversation earlier in camp, just the sort of the holistic approach that really is needed to get someone through it and someone's family through it. Like it's one thing, the doctor tells you, here's the treatment, here's how you get through it. And you as the patient, you more so, you're an athlete, but everybody, you're in the fight. Everybody else is sort of going to the closet to cry.
So luckily I have a really good support system and as far as people I know in the professional world and everything. So Mayo Clinic, they were great. They were like, hey, if you need a therapist, we've got someone on staff. If Chrissy needs a therapist, we've got someone on staff. If anybody needs to talk to anybody, we've got people around. But I had several friends, like one of our close friends, they run a foundation called All Secure. And they deal with mainly veterans with PTS. But they also have therapists and all this sort of stuff. They're like, hey, if you need anybody to talk to, we've got you, don't worry about it. Like people like that had reached out just as offering hands with just to like, hey, if there's anything you need, let us know. I mean, I got so many weighted blankets at the house now. We had people just like sending over gift bags and everything like that. I got socks, I got chemo hats, I've got like weighted blankets, teas. I mean, Danny Coulomb, a guy who's now with the Orioles, used to be with the Twins, he sent me Preggy Pops because his sister-in-law went through it. And Preggy Pops, these little like anti-nausea like hard candies. One, delicious. And two, they were fantastic.
Really?
Like they really helped. Like it's meant to be for morning sickness and stuff like that. But it's those little things that people went out of their way to go say like, hey, I know this worked for someone else I know that went through cancer. Here, try this. Those little things help. But to be honest, from the get-go, my wife and I was like, look, this is going to suck for us. It's not going to be a great time. But I'm a big proponent of there's a silver lining to absolutely everything. So you know what? Yeah, everything I've been through this year sucks, but what's the silver lining? The silver lining is I can now go around during the season and meet with either current or former cancer patients. So once we did that, we started meeting with kids on the road. Whether it be kids, whether it be adults, whether it be survivors, whether it be people who are in the middle of chemo, whether it be people who are just got diagnosed or anything like that. And it was really rewarding for that. And the adverse effect of that is the more I spoke about my treatment, my side effects, my issues, the ones that I ran into, the lighter it got, the easier it got to talk about. So unfortunately in society, you don't like saying the word cancer, you don't like saying the word chemotherapy, no one likes talking about what they went through. But the more things you go through, the more you talk about it, the easier it gets. So trying to get, like I remember seeing there was a 14-year-old kid in Chicago who had brain cancer, and talking to him, and I was like, oh, what treatment are you on? He was like, not sure, like if he wants to say it. I'm like, no, I was on RB, so Rituxan and Bendeka. He goes, oh, I did the rituximab. And we started talking, and the more you spoke, the more he lightened up, the more he got willing to talk about it, and the mum even noticed and was like, thank you. Because it's like you get into your own head too much that nobody's going to understand. They're going to not judge me for it, but everyone's concerned with asking me the wrong question. No. People I've run into that have any sort of ailment, whether it be a cancer, whether it be a disability, whether it be anything, the more you treat them like a normal person, which they are, the easier it gets to be around society.
No doubt about that. That moment, getting the Jimmy V Award, but back to that, when you gave the speech and you got that ovation, I remember watching that thinking, this was a month ago he got the ovation in Chicago for getting on the field. A month later, you're getting the ovation there. And it's two very different ovations, right? Yeah. It's your fans, and as you said, now it's your peers. I'm not going to ask you which one was more impactful.
I wouldn't say peers. I was saying like all the people I'm a fan of.
Yeah, well, right. but now you're in that group. Congratulations. But you know what I mean? Like to me, that was sort of the two worlds embracing you, if that makes sense, right? Your fans and the people you're fans of.
Yeah.
Right? It's a full circle.
Without a doubt. I think that was, as I said, it was a really, really cool experience. Being able to talk about that, unfortunately, like I've got pretty bad eyes, and so trying to read a teleprompter while engaging the crowd,
Right.
a little tough. So I would go like this, look back at the teleprompter, I don't know where I'm at, and then just start rambling. Because like we sat down and we cultivated this perfect speech, like it was great, but I'm not going to sit there and just sit there and read. That's just not who I am. So it was. We got the main points out there, which is good.
You got it.
But I still remember there was one point in there where I can't remember what my wife told me I'm not allowed to say anymore. She goes, "You say it all the time. You need to stop saying it." I can't remember. It was and moving forward and so on. Like one of those ones where it was like
a verbal crutch. Yeah, you just lean on.
Like a continuation kind of thing. Well, I got to a point where I almost said it, looked at her, and said something exactly the same but different wording.
That's funny.
She just see her. She
See, but that's mastering it. That means you were in the moment. Like that's shaking off a picture right there and delivering what you want to deliver.
That was,
funny.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun experience. It was a very whirlwind experience because we got in the night before, had that day, and then left at 4 o'clock the next morning because we had to be in Atlanta for the series there, and I was throwing a bullpen there, so trying to come back before I got this.
What's on the cancer front? How often are the checkups now? What's
Every 6 months.
What's the protocol?
So so this way it actually worked out perfectly because my next scan was meant to be I think late April, but because we have the West Coast trip to start the year off, I'm unfortunately gonna miss the Seattle series, but I'm gonna be in Arizona getting my scans done then, and then meet the team in Oakland, and then I hit my 10 years in LA. So it worked out well in that regard as far as like logistic wise, but I don't like missing games.
You brought up the 10 years,
Yep.
And that's the goal I think everybody has. You know, after a few years, the goal is to just make it. The goal is to stay a few years.
Yep.
Then you have a career, and you're like, all right, 10 years means something.
Mm-hmm.
For you, 5 DFAs, everything you said. What does it mean to get to that?
It took me 4 years to get my first year of service time. So I got called up in September of 2011. Didn't know anybody on the team. I had played with 2 guys previously that year in AA, and that was it. So I had no idea. I'd never been to big league camp. I'd never done anything like that. I made my deal in 11, made the team out of camp in 12, had 2 good starts, had 2 starts in April, and then not DFA. Then I went down to AAA, did really well down there. Yeah, really well down there. Yeah, in 12 I had a really good year in AAA, not so good year in the big leagues. 13 I was mediocre in both.
I'm just fact checking. So far, you're right on.
Yeah, I had surgery. I was surgery in October 2012, and I didn't recover very well. And and it was I didn't deserve to be in the big leagues, but I was young, I was immature, and I was egotistical, and so I thought I deserved to be in the. Well, I've done all the work. I've gotten to here. I should be here, and that's just not the way the world works. You need to go like, yeah, whatever you did yesterday, great. That's congratulations, but that doesn't mean about today. Your job today is to go out there and get people out. And I didn't quite get that concept. And I didn't really quite get that concept all the way until 2018. I was up and down. I got DFA'd. DFA'd for Phil Hughes there. Then I got picked up by the Cubs. And then I got DFA'd for, I'm pretty sure it was Jose Veras. And then by the Cubs. So I found out I got DFA'd by the Cubs when I got claimed by the Orioles, one. And that was only because I got a text message from one of my Orioles friends. And he was like, yeah, man, we're excited to have you. All right. And my sister had just bought our family Cubs hats because we didn't really quite understand the way it works at that point. And so she was upset. And then get to Orioles, about 2 weeks into spring training, I just started a bullpen to Matt Wieters, and then got DFA'd the next day. So I'm like, I guess it didn't go that well. And I brought it up to Matt since. But I got DFA'd for Ubaldo Jimenez there. And then I got claimed by the Blue Jays, and that was the one. Yeah, that was the one and only year in 2014 that since I've made my debut, that I haven't made the opening day roster. As far as being, like, without being hurt. So, got sent down to AAA that year, was in Buffalo as a reliever. Like, I started that year as the 5th guy in the rotation in Buffalo, and started the year off as piggybacking Stroman. And pitched well enough, and ended up getting a couple starts here and there. Made the AAA All-Star game. And then got traded for me and Eric Kratz got traded for Danny Valencia to the Royals. Got DFA'd by the Royals for Moises Sierra and traded back to the Blue Jays for Santiago Nessie. And then, I was out of options at that point. I didn't know I made the team with the 2015 Blue Jays until which bus I was going on. One bus is going to Buffalo, one bus is going to Yankee Stadium. Didn't know which bus I was getting on. We had the exhibition games in Montreal.
That's Montreal. I was there. You played us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Was it the
Montreal?
that was
no, it
that was
wasn't.
the
We played
Cardinals.
Toronto. I'm sorry.
That was the
No, you were Toronto.
Yeah, it was
you
Toronto.
were the Cardinals.
That
We
was
were the
15.
year after.
Yeah, so you were there in 16.
16.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
15
you're right.
we played the
That's right.
Cardinals. My first outing of the exhibition series was the first time I'd thrown to Russell Martin the entire spring. And I love Russ, he's great. But first slider I threw, he'd never seen me pitch. So he'd probably seen me pitch, but he'd never caught me. Didn't know how my ball moved. And first slider, swing and miss, backs up. So I'm trying to make a team. I'm trying to make a team. So I ended up with double play and 2 strikeouts in an inning. That was fun. And got told, hey, get on the bus going to the Yankees. You made the big league roster. As we go on that bus, one of the guys like, hey, no, the minor league bus is that way. No, I got told I'm making the big leagues. I'm like, all right. And then got traded for Jesse Chavez that offseason.
Right.
After I said I was a Habs fan in Leafs territory.
Oh, that'll do it.
So I'm
You
hoping that doesn't happen again.
You and Russell Martin were the only Habs fans.
Yep. So that was the year we were playing.
We'll get to that, by the way.
Yeah,
we're going to get to the tough questions. We're going to get to the Montreal.
They were playing Ottawa. I still remember sitting on the bus watching it on an iPad. They were playing Ottawa in the playoffs, I think, one year. And then in that offseason, it wouldn't have been the playoffs. It would have been the season was just starting around the playoffs time. So we were watching that game and,
That's funny.
getting into it.
The All-Star, you talked about talk about the ESPYs.
Yeah.
These are people I'm a fan of. Like, when you make the All-Star game for the first time, when you're named to the All-Star team, like, you are surrounded by the best in the game. And for a lot of guys, that's sort of another step in the career, right? Like, I belong here. What was that like?
Oh, I definitely didn't feel like I belonged there. So we found out who was announced, because Matt Chapman got announced as our All-Star representative, our one and only, when we were in LA. And I still remember it. It was, I was upset. I had a 1-2 at that point, but I had only just started moving towards the back end. So hadn't really had that save, so I was just a kind of middle, and I started the year as a slot guy. So I started the year as the long guy, had a couple opens here and there, but didn't really have too much high leverage. And I was upset when I found that out. Like, I was annoyed, but it was a fleeting moment of like, hey, I'm upset, but you know what? Screw these guys. I'm going to go out in there and beat every one of these guys by the end of the year. And Blake trying to pull me aside and was like, look, I saw how much that hurt you. And just letting you know, like, he goes, I wish I had someone told me this when I didn't win reliever of the year last year. When it was the year that Edwin Diaz had 52 saves or whatever it was. And he's like, I wish someone had come back and told me to just let it go, because you know what? I sat there and I stood on it and I was bitter and he goes, I thought I had done enough, but it wasn't meant to be. And I just want to let you know, like, hey, look, if you need to talk, if you need to vent, blame it on here. And I still remember that because it was in the stairwell in Anaheim. And that definitely, I was already moving that direction, but hearing it from a guy who had the year he did the year before and hadn't had the year he wanted to in 2019, hearing that, it definitely helped me as far as like clicking it back in and making sure I was ready to go. But so I will always have Blake to thank for that little tidbit in there, because as you know, during that 3 days later we're in Seattle and Bomo calls me in the office saying, hey, by the way, you got added to your replacement for the 2019 All-Star game in Cleveland. And then I had to figure out how to get on a flight with Chapman and his sister and girlfriend and Vogelbach and his sister and brother, and then me, and then got told, hey, Christy, stay in Oakland, get to Cleveland. Can you get your own way to Cleveland, rather than being on the private jet that they got us, because, but yeah, and then, I still don't feel like I belong in that group. Like, it's just.
Three later?
3 later, I still don't feel like I belong. I mean, I'm the same person around anybody. Like, it's just, regardless if you're Shohei Ohtani or a guy who's making their debut, the same. Like, I don't treat you any differently. Right. It's like, it's the one thing that I got drilled into me by some of the guys I played with early in my career, was like everybody, like Joe Mauer treated everybody exactly the same. That's just who he was. He was that nice of a guy that, you know what, he's going to go and talk to Michael Kadire as much as he was going to go talk to a guy like Chris Parmelee or Joe Benson that made their debuts the same day I did. And that's just who he was. And I always want to be that kind of teammate, because I know that there were some guys that I didn't necessarily get treated the best by, that I never want to be known as that guy.
Yeah, I've talked to guys who've retired and said, if I go back, I wish I'd have been a little less hard on the rookies. Now,
don't get me wrong. Some of these guys needed a good swift kick around the head every now and then.
Well, there's also those guys. But that's life, isn't it?
That's
there's guys on TV,
there's ways to do it without demeaning their entire beings.
Right. You want to be the guy.
I only want to demean people I'm on the mound.
Well, yeah. Well, there you go. Well, it makes me think, and we go forever, but it makes me. In 2006, I was doing this, and John Lester was a young pitcher, and he got cancer, and a young guy who now is going through it. Right, the next year a year later, he's pitching the World Series, so it wasn't like a long. But I remember during that 07 season, we're talking at one point, and he says, I'm looking forward to the day that I'm just a pitcher and not the pitcher who conquered cancer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he goes, not the fans and stuff, but my teammates and the guys I'm pitching against.
Yeah.
I don't want the guy walking, not that anybody really is, but he goes, I don't want wow, what a courageous story he is. No, I want the guy to hate me because I'm going to strike him out.
That part gets a little old, I'll tell you that. So I was very open with the fact that, hey, look, me personally, and this doesn't go for everybody, me personally, joke about it. Give me some cancer jokes. Give me some jokes around that ilk, because you know what? That takes it takes the sting out of it for everyone, because you're not just walking on eggshells around me. Oh, I hope I don't say the wrong thing about it. No, ask me about it. Whatever you want to ask me about it. Like, I'm an open book in that regard, because I need the transparency, and it takes that little tiptoeing around everybody, and then you're one of the guys again.
But in August, September, you want Yankee fans to hate you. You don't want them to be giving you a standing ovation.
I want every opposition team to hate me, because I love criticism. I vibe off criticism because it's a challenge. Like, they're criticizing you, one, because you're better than what you're doing well. They don't criticize the guys who suck unless they're on their own team, and then they generally, if they bring anything, oh well, his slide's not doing as much this year. He's not going to have much success if he keeps doing this. All right, watch me. You don't think I can do it? Watch me. And having that attitude is what kind of kept me going from 19 when everyone said I couldn't go back out and do it again in 20. And then 20 happened, and I only had to back it up for 60 games, which was great. And then then you get that confidence going from that. But it's always been a consistent base of, oh, you don't think I continue doing this? Oh, you don't think I can pitch till I'm 40 at an elite level? Watch me. You don't think I can come back from cancer and TJ in the same year, or cancer and TJ, and come back and be who I was before that? Watch me.
0.77 at Fenway in your career. 11 strikeouts in 11 innings. Is there something about, like, you're an emotional guy, right? You feed off it, and Fenway's got it there to feed off of.
I was just honestly lucky that Pedroia didn't come up with runners on. Now, they may not be hard hit balls, most of them, but he's got a couple dinky little hits in there. But I still remember he got one that started off, and it was a tied game in the 7th inning in 2015. I ended up with one out, bases loaded in a 4-4 game. Ortiz is up the plate, and Pedroia just hit an infield single a couple batters earlier, and yeah, that was one of those ones where you're like, you know what, got nothing to lose. Pop, here you go. Ended up striking out Papi and Xander, and then that was my first. I think that may have been my first fist bump. But yeah, it's I have euphoric recall with a lot of outings, but I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning. I can remember bats from 2011. I can remember, you name it, I'll be able to probably recall it.
Dennis Eckersley, who was with us for a long time, is like that.
I got my
you can take him back and he'll boom, 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 boom.
I got my signed Eck jersey at the house. Oakland one. He's in Oakland.
That's the one.
Yeah.
He's got the big in Oakland.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll go to Vegas. He's very worried about that. He's like, I hope they take the Eckersley gate to Vegas. This is a Dennis Eckersley gate.
I don't know. I think they've got to keep the name, because they took it from Philadelphia to Kansas City, or Kansas City to Philadelphia, and then took it from Philadelphia to Oakland. So you got to go with it. But
have you thought about pitching at Fenway at home? Like, what that would be like having those fans behind you?
No, but I'm excited for it. The Red Sox are one of the teams that I followed a lot as a kid, because they were on TV a lot more. For whatever reason, we just got those games in Australia, and as far as timing went, it was 12 hours difference. So I'd go to the gym at 7 when I was shadowing a personal trainer when I was in my last year of high school, and it was back in the day where you used to have to cycle. There was 35 TVs on the wall, and you used to have to spin to get the audio. You have to ride a bike to get the audio. So you have to find out what TVs are, number 31. Okay, bang, bang, 31. Plug your headphones in, and you have to cycle. And as soon as you stop cycling, sound goes out. You don't get anything anymore. So that's how I watched the games. I chose the bike that was closest to the baseball game and went to town for a couple hours.
That's hysterical. Do you remember the 2004 World Series? Like, was that, because you would have been
I would have
13,
been 15.
14, 15?
I don't know. 15, yeah, I'm old. Yeah, 2004, yeah, 15.
All right.
Yeah, 15.
Do you remember that at all?
Like,
come back against the Yankees or any of that? Was that? I mean, that's a long ways away. It was a big story here. I don't know if it got down there.
Yeah, I mean, it was a definitely big story.
Yeah.
But no, I don't remember it as much. I mean,
was it hard? I mean, like, how challenging was it for you to be able to follow Major League Baseball?
It was hard. It was pre Wi-Fi,
right.
So it was dial-up back in the days of trying to like plug in the internet and someone's on the phone or it wakes the entire household up because it was the loudest thing ever. But yeah, it was really hard to follow. Obviously, I would hear mostly about games from people at at my baseball team. So Wanneroo Giants, it would be guys that would just be like, oh yeah, they had the paper or they were able to look at the stats or anything like that, and that's kind of how I followed it all. Or the American guys that would tell us about their teams and stuff like that.
So it's hard enough to imagine how an Aussie became a Major League Baseball player, but we ask the tough questions on this. How does an Aussie become a Montreal Canadiens fan?
So there's been 37 Aussies all time in Major League Baseball.
Okay.
Curtis Mead is the most recent one. The first was Joe Quinn back in the 1800s.
Really?
Yeah, so he's technically the longest tenured. I think I want to say we have 3 guys that have 10 years of service time. And I think that's Graham Lloyd, Peter Moylan, and Grant Balfour.
You'd be the 4th.
I think so. I'm not entirely certain because service time's hard to find for whatever reason. They're kind of shy about it. And as far as the Habs fan, so my wife grew up skating. And so skating, hockey kind of go hand in hand. And so I was trying to get into a sport, and she goes, no, you need a man sport where they hit each other and they've got no teeth and they play through things. And so, hockey fan, so I like local teams. I was in Fort Myers at this point, so you just go down to the Everblades games, stuff like that. And I loosely fan. She goes, no, you need to follow hockey. I'm like, look, I struggle without a team to barrack for, a team to root for. So she goes, okay, well, she's spent a little bit of time in Quebec City growing up. So Quebec City, Nordiques aren't there anymore. I'm more of a Habs guy, and the Habs just happen to be on a decent streak at this point. So, in the middle of the Carey Price brain, and so look, okay, Habs fan, and still to this day, she's just the worst decision she ever made. Because I watch every game, I'm full bore into it, and it's become more of an obsession than anything else. I've got the PK Subban signed jersey at the house, I've got the Max Pacioretty signed hat, I've got a Gallagher, a Caulfield, a Suzuki, a Price jersey at the house. Funnily enough, my wife just won a Bobby Orr signed Massachusetts number plate at the Make-A-Wish Gala in Arizona. So she's excited about going to the Bruins games. I'm excited. I love hockey. If they're not playing Montreal, I'll go for them. I don't care. I just love hockey.
But that's like a Yankee fan saying, I'll cheer for the Red Sox tonight. I mean, that's
I know, it is a very big
remember
rivalry.
who you're talking to.
It is a very big rivalry. But I'm really hoping the fact that they just think they know that I'm a hockey fan and a sports fan, and I'm going to embrace everything in Boston.
Yeah. We'll get you and Marchand. We'll get you and Marchand together. He'll try to convince.
Hey, that's what I'm saying. I love meeting the guys. Because I still remember I played catch with Steven Stamkos in Toronto. A lot of the Toronto or Canadian hockey players around the league, they love the Jays. Yeah. So they'll come out and they want to be around. So I remember all he wanted to do was dive in the 6 hole and field a ground ball and throw it to first. That's what he wanted to do more than anything. He didn't want to hit BP. He goes, I've done that before. I want to field a ground ball. So I was playing catch with him. I was the first baseman. I was doing all this, and it was great.
That's funny.
So if any of the Bruins guys wants to come out and do that, I am available and I am around.
Trust me, they do. Because
I kind of want to take a slap shot.
It's hard. Well, we got to take that. Have you ever skated?
No, I'm very bad.
Okay.
Yeah, my wife refuses to teach me because I don't know how to fall yet.
Yeah, don't.
And until I'm done
don't do that. Your ankles have been okay.
I do have some roller blades in my car right now.
I feel like the ankles are the only thing you haven't had worked on. Don't skate yet.
Yeah, the ankles I'm not worried about. The falling and ruining that.
Don't.
We have an Eddie Alvarez here.
Yeah, he can teach you a thing or two.
He can teach me how to skate.
Yeah. Zach Kelly's a huge hockey fan.
Yeah.
Big Capitals fan, so yeah.
Oh,
it's been a rough go for him.
Then she loves Ovi.
Yeah, well, that's like liking Jeter. It's okay.
Exactly.
He plays the game.
But
you almost, I've never said this to an Aussie in my life, not that I've talked to a lot of Aussies, but you almost have a hockey mentality.
Similar.
You know what I mean? I don't know if Australian rules football is the same.
My wife thinks I have a goalie mentality.
Yeah.
So we're a little odd.
I can see that. Yeah, a little odd, and it's sort of your will.
Yeah.
My son was a goalie for a while. There's an old saying in hockey: "My will against your skill."
Yeah.
It's like you were saying before. I don't care how good you are. I may not be as good, but you're not going to beat me.
Yeah. And whoever comes in the box against me, it doesn't matter what their number they're wearing, what uniform they're wearing. It's time to go, and I'm going to beat you, and I want to embarrass your family. I want you to suck so badly in this at bat that your family disowns you.
You ruin their Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Like they're all
100%.
talking about it.
Yeah. That's the goal every single time.
I'll ask you finally, and we appreciate the time on this. But just how much? I mean, you were a fiery guy on the mound. But when you go through something like what you've been through, how much does it change your perspective?
Not so much as far as on the mound stuff, because a lot of it is manufactured. A lot of it is, I'm a fiery guy and I have white line fever, and any little thing that you do that I deem wrong or irresponsible or anything like that, I take offensively. And that's just the way I have to do things to be able to get myself in the right frame of mind. And I'd never heard that put into words until Jordan said it on The Last Dance. Like, he goes, I took that personally. I take every little thing personally. Whether it be the fact you took 1 second too long to get in the box, whether it be anything along those lines, whether you take a big swing or anything like that, it's absolutely everything I can to get an edge. That was harder coming back because, as you said, my first game back was in Gwinnett. Their manager was Matt Tuiasosopo, who I played with in 2014 in Buffalo, and he had organized them to come out and applaud me when I'm coming in. It's really hard to be angry at people when they're applauding you for just, I don't know, walking on a field. That was hard to do, but it was also one of the best things I could do because it happened in AAA, and then I was able to kind of get out of that in the big leagues. And my one save last year came in at Yankee Stadium, and that was a weird kind of mix because some people were cheering because I was playing, and then there were other people that were like, I don't care what he's been through. We're down by 2 runs. We're the Yankees. We're going to wipe the floor with him. So it was a weird concur. There was booing and also cheering, which is an odd thing to hear in Yankee Stadium for a visiting player specifically. Apparently they do that in the playoffs to their favorite players. But it was a weird situation in that regard. But I think it all has been a lead up to me getting back again. It's all been a lead up that you have to go through experiences, you have to live through things before you really understand how to deal with them. And last year was that year for me. I used a lot of those experiences, and now I'm trying to get back, and now I'm trying not to piss too many people off in our own clubhouse because I'm a lot.
2023 Major League Baseball Comeback Player of the Year, leading candidate to do it again in 24.
And also a registered minister. I got ordained the other day.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I got bored.
Did you do that down here?
Yeah, I went to just on the website.
Okay.
But I went to dinner with my agent. My agent got ordained to marry his brother.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm like, what was this process? Was it bad? He goes, no, it was easy. All right. So ordered our bang bang shrimp at Bonefish, and then I got ordained. I got the certificate yesterday.
What do you think your first act will be as a minister?
Messing with someone in our clubhouse. So I got some marriage certificates. Gonna try and play that off and do something with that.
We got to arrange something at Fenway where you gotta preside over some.
Yeah. Is Wally married?
Well, Tessie's his sister. That'd be weird. You can't do that. But maybe we could find someone.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that can be my first official marriage. I can marry Wally. I got nothing to do.
To be continued. You got too much time. I'm worried about that. I'm worried about the too much time on your hand. It might be good that you're going with the team.
That's why I need to travel. Yeah. This is why I need to travel. Because one, I've been married for 10 years as of November of last year. I really would like to make it to 11. And if I'm at home any longer, I'm afraid for my wife's sanity.
Oh, there's no doubt. The secret to a happy marriage is make sure you're away a little bit.
Yeah. So.
My wife, we're just every January, and we've married 32 years, but every January it's like, is it spring training soon?
It's like 3 weeks into the off season. She's like, when are you leaving? When can you just go work out somewhere so you can get out of the house?
Where do you stay the off season?
Arizona.
Okay, so I just
want
to make
sure. So we have
our
house here.
Yeah.
When I came up with the twins, so we've kept that here. And then, we may spend more time down here now because of that, obviously.
But your Habs stuff, I want to make sure it's safe in Arizona.
Don't
bring it to Boston.
It's in Arizona. It's not going to come to Boston unless, if there's a chance there's a game on it, was it TD Bank, TD Stadium?
TD Garden.
TD Garden. You will see me if they play Montreal in full Montreal Gala. I do not care. I am more of a fan of the people who are fans of their team without wavering. without saying they're going to be the worst team ever, without wavering, without doing anything, I am a fan of those people because this is my team. I do not change. I do not challenge. I do not worry. Yeah, they suck. They're not having a great season. But in retrospect with other teams, I don't want to say that they suck. But
Right.
And if they're not having a great year, it doesn't change my allegiances. It doesn't waver my love for that organization, my love for that team. I value that more than anything else. You know what? If you're a Red Sox fan, be a Red Sox fan. If you're a Yankee fan, be a Yankee fan. If you're a Mets fan, be a Mets fan, and don't waver. Yes, they may be going through some lean years, but you know what? Those lean years make those good years way sweeter.
Perfect ending.
Appreciate it.
This is really good.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for the time. Well, I'll tell you what, it's almost impossible not to root for Liam Hendriks. I don't care if you're a Yankee fan, you got to root for Liam Hendriks. Red Sox have him under contract for next year. And so it's really all about what he can do to help this team, maybe the end of this year, but certainly as a big part of the bullpen next year. Gotten to know him a little bit, and I'll tell you what, he's the real deal. His courage and his strength in battling through cancer to get back last year with the White Sox and now fighting his way back from Tommy John surgery. A real inspiration and a veteran leader, much like Kenley Jansen on the back end of that bullpen on a young team that needs as much leadership as it can get. So we'll chart his progress in the weeks ahead. Not sure if he'll get back on the mound, but as we said, if he did, can you imagine winning the AL Comeback Player of the Year for the second straight year? It's almost impossible, right? You've already come back. You're not supposed to come back again. But he has been the ultimate comeback story, and we thank Liam Hendriks for joining us. We thank you for checking this out. Don't forget, you can get all the back episodes if you're just stumbling on the 310 The Left podcast. They're all up on iTunes and Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. So like, subscribe, do all those things you do, including joining us next time. For Alex Spear, who is on assignment, I'm Tom Caron. For all our crew behind the scenes, thanks for checking us out. This was the 310 The Left podcast. Hope to see you again next time.